really like this one shot from Season 2, Episode 3 of Phase Zero. In my opinion, it's a great example of visual storytelling and is overall one of the best shots in the series. Before explaining why I think that, I should probably mention the context, given that Season 2 of Phase Zero came out like 8 years ago. And it's probably not entirely reasonable to assume that any hypothetical audience that I don't have, because this is my first video, would have actually seen it recently enough to remember everything about it. So this shot is from right after Kiritsugu pulls off an epic gamer moment and completely wrecks Canis, Solui, and Dearmoon's shit. I'm pretty sure I pronounced Dearmoon wrong. Please forgive me on that. Either way, Saber does not agree with Kiritsugu's methods and calls him out on it. And their ensuing discussion is the root of one of the biggest ideological conflicts in the series, that being the conflict between chivalry and utilitarianism, with Saber representing chivalry and Kiritsugu representing utilitarianism. Given that this conflict is so central to the narrative, it's really important that this scene work well, and luckily it does, particularly in this particular shot. The most notable aspect of this scene is the use of light. Saber, wielding Excalibur, is quite literally emanating light. This ties into the fact that, by conventional morality, Saber is in the right for thinking that Kiritsugu's actions are awful, underhanded, and brutal. Meanwhile, Kiritsugu is standing in a slightly darker area of the scene and is clad in black, suggesting the questionable morality of his actions. Irisfeel, meanwhile, stands between them. Her design is dominated by white, as she herself is an untouched, pure sort of person. She's really quite naive, and that factors into her character design quite a lot. But despite being caught between Saber and Kiritsugu, Irisfeel is closer to Kiritsugu, indicating that in the end she is on his side over Saber's, even though she and Saber have developed a close relationship over the course of the series. As she is caught between these moral extremes, she is gray, but this grayness is caused more by the lighting than she herself. Moreover, the lightest parts of Irisfeel seem to be lit by Excalibur, therefore showing both the influence of Kiritsugu and Saber over her. This gradient is also suggested by the wall behind them. It's really a light gray close to white near Saber, and gets progressively darker as it moves towards Kiritsugu. This both separates them and in a lot of ways increases the distance, while still suggesting a link between them, given that most of the shot is in the same blue-gray. While the use of light is quite interesting, what I like best about this shot is the column to the left of the frame. Compositionally, it's an overlapping armature that keeps the composition from flattening out too much, although to be perfectly honest, it's still a little on the flat side. But I really can't judge it too harshly for that. Perspective is hard, okay? More thematically relevantly, the column is very large and imposing. It's in the foreground, and it seems to block Saber off from getting out of the frame. This compositional element essentially traps Saber in the frame. She's stuck with these people, whether she wants to be or not. She can't really break the contract, and she can't really get out of doing what Kiritsugu tells her to do. Now, she could theoretically get out of it by doing something like what Gilgamesh did, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think Saber has the balls to do something like that, and it doesn't really suit her overall style. Overall, this is one of the more important scenes in the series. Aside from being one of very few interactions between Kiritsugu and Saber, it's also the scene that most prominently brings up the conflict between chivalry and utilitarianism, which I feel is one of the central tenets of the series. This shot even goes so far as to suggest the conclusion that I think Phase Zero reaches with that question. It all ends in rubble anyway. Given that this is such a crucial scene, I think it's great how much attention was paid to the details of this shot, and really to the scene overall. I feel like there's a slight tendency to view Ufotable as more of a style over substance studio, kind of, flashy and dramatic, But stuff like this really shows that there's more to them than just cool Sakuga, neat fight scenes, and crazy camera angles. And that when it really counts, they absolutely deliver. Anyway, kudos to them for that shot. Anyway, see ya.